Hello, 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 Illumineers, and welcome to the Nerdstrom household. My name is Nerdstrom. Today I've got some deck profiles to go through for the Nerdstrom House Championship Set 8. And today, the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at one of kind of the upstart decks that's in the Nerdstrom household, but still an incredibly exciting and formidable challenge, especially in today's meta, where aggro tends to be an incredibly competitive and suitable option when it comes to set championships and getting those winning Jafar combos. So today we are going to be taking a look at the Amber Emerald ChernaDAWGS deck, which is this one right over here. It's in the Ursula box as it stands, and we do have it sitting on the Steamboat Willie playmat. Ignore that Hades playmat for a second; that's for later. But this is a really cool deck profile. There is going to be some spice inside of here because, as you guys know, if you see any of the deck builds that I've done before, I am limited to what I have within the Nerdstrom household. And if a current deck needs to run using that certain deck, then I have to kind of like improvise a little bit in order and use different options in order to kind of make it relevant and still competitive at the same time too. But using the resources that I do have at my disposal. So there's going to be a little bit of spice inside of here that's kind of not traditional in accordance with what the deck goes. But I still kind of think that there is, the way it's built, especially this one, it's kind of built in such a way that, yeah, you're going to lose something that's important in there, but there's still kind of ways to make up for that. And so get started. Let's go ahead and take a look at this deck profile, starting from the 1/8 count and going up in cost. So in this deck, as an aggro deck, you need to have as many like low cost characters to kind of get things off the ground really well. And as such, this deck, the Amber Emerald ChernaDAWGS deck, contains 22 1-drops. I think at absolute minimum, a proper aggro deck should have at least 20, and this one is surpassing that number as it stands right now. So, to start off, we'll take a look at the inkable characters. The other thing to keep in mind too is that, with the exception of 4 cards in this deck, there's absolutely no actions whatsoever. You're all in on aggro, and you can just hope that you can make it to the finish line before your opponent catches up with you. But to start off, you start off with 4 ladies, Lady Decisive Dogs. One cost, inkable, 0-3 stat line. It's got pack of her own, and whenever you play a character, this character gets +1 strength this turn, and while this character has 3 or more strength, she gets 2 lore. I think that this is a very underrated card in the meta when it comes to Amber Emerald, and I know a lot of people use it, but I don't think a lot of people understand how to use it really well. Usually a lot of people will use this one as your turn 1 option, and they'll just have it as a big body that makes it really difficult to kind of get rid of. Strength of the Raging Fire can't one-shot it and all that kind of stuff because it's got that 3 stats. But it does still have 3, it still only has 0 strength the whole time. And you have to remember that when you play a character in order to add strength to Lady, that strength goes away at the end of the turn. Like, it doesn't get to keep it. So you have to be smart with it, because so usually what ends up happening for me is I like to use this lady as a means to, what I'll do is I'll save a whole bunch of 1-drops if I ever get that on the flop in my hand, because I know that I'm going to be using this one for turn 1. Let's say, because usually like what ends up happening is a lot of aggro decks will use like Daisy and we'll get to that in a second, or Curse Merfolk in the beginning, because it already has the 2 lore. And guarantees are usually a really good thing, especially with how strong Daisy and Curse Merfolk are. But what I will do is I will use Lady, knowing that I have a whole bunch of cards in the deck that are all 1-drop. And that way I can immediately, and especially on turn 3, I can get Lady, I can get, it's like I can have Lady out, but I can put like 3 other 1-drops on turn 3. So say, like the crazy combo would be if you put Lady down on turn 1. Turn 2 is okay as well if you want to, but you would do turn 1 Lady, then turn 2 you would have Daisy and 2 Daisies maybe, or a Daisy and a Curse Merfolk, and you have that on the board at the same time too. And then you would line turn 3 with 3 1-drops, like Nala, Little John, any other lady, anything that's like a 1-drop that's on the board. The crazy thing would be like if you somehow had all your Curse Merfolks and all your Daisies all at the same time. Because now on turn 3, when you quest with Daisy and Curse Merfolk, they're going to get you 4, and then you're also going to get an additional 2 from the Take the Lead ability. So now all of a sudden this one quests for 3, and then before you know it, you're at 7 lore. And then on top of that, now you have a whole spread of characters that are really hard to kind of take off the board, with the exception of like things like the leaders and stuff like that. Damagers like strength and brawl and all that kind of stuff. But they're still going to be taking you out 1 turn. By turn 3, your opponent shouldn't have a whole lot of things to kind of like get rid of, no matter how many things they do have. Like, I know that Ruby and Sapphire, Ruby have Sprawl, and Steel's got plenty of the leaders, but it's really difficult to get all of them out in 1 turn. And if for some reason you get a God Hand where like every one of those 3 1-drops that you just put down all happen to be like can quest for 2. I mean, like it's such an incredibly insurmountable lead on there. I'm spending a lot of time talking about this, and I will say that the combo is a very rare combo to pull off, but it is a really good one, and I really like. And when I do get those rare chances to kind of do it, it's a really cool thing to see on your side of the board. It's terrible for the opponent. But yeah, let's go ahead and keep going. I'm going to show you the inkable 1-drops to start off with. So you got Lady. I also do have Little John, which is another 1-drop. 04 stat line, can't cook, quest for 1. But again, this is another one of those ones where like it's really hard to kind of get rid of in 1 shot, with the exception of brawls. So it's something that you have to deal with. Yeah, it only quests for 1, but it can be a good card that can kind of stay on the board for a little while longer, which is usually a really good option. And then, of course, in that same vein, you also put down Nala at the same time, too. Nala, Mischievous Cub, quest is a 1-drop. Inkable, quest for 1. It's got an 04 stat line. Same exact thing as Little John. By the way, when I said Little John, I should have gone, what? Okay! Anyway, so... but yeah, Nala kind of operates in that same vein as Little John in that sort of way. It's just a big body that's difficult to kind of get rid of. Yeah, it's got an 04 stat line, but again, that defense can usually stick around for quite a bit, especially on turn 1 and 2. It can take a little while for it to go away. But just like Daisy, just like Lady is kind of the star of the show, especially on turn 1. The other one is the one that everybody knows, which is Daisy Duck. It's an 1-drop, uninkable, 1/4 stat line, quest for 2. And whenever this character quests, the opponent reveals the top card of their deck. If it's a character card, they may put it into the hand. Otherwise, they put it on the bottom of their deck. Now, of course, if they get hit with a character and it happens to be like, say, a 3-drop Sisu, that sucks, but you want these in there because you're hoping that it's kind of like a high roll. It's like you're kind of hoping that when you quest with Daisy, the card that they reveal is going to be a song, or it's going to be Brawl, or something like that, or some sort of action, or like Make Duck Manor would kind of suck to kind of have to deal with at the same time too. You want to have that as a hopeful thing that you go on there too. But overall, like even though you're hoping that, like, even though like it does kind of suck that they have an extra card that they have to like go on there. Like I myself, whenever I play against Daisy, I'm definitely hoping that I was like, okay, cool. I hope I get something that's inkable, like an inkable something, because then I could use that as fodder, or like I could trade something up so I can get the thing on there. But with Daisy, like the whole point is it's still pretty strong. It's difficult to kind of get rid of, and again, it's another thing that quests for 2, and it's really important to kind of have in an aggro deck, because the whole point of aggro is you're trying to get there as soon as possible. Same with Cursed Merfolk. Yes, 0-1 stat line. Cursed Merfolk are still handiwork. It's a 1-drop uninkable, quest for 2. Whenever this character is challenged, each opponent chooses and discards a card. This is relatively easy to kind of get rid of. Strength of the Raging Fire or Storm, easy things to kind of like pick this thing off. Not a problem in those regards. But again, it's another thing that it can waste resources on those sort of things. And if you get Cursed Merfolk like a little bit later in the game, it can be pretty difficult to get to. But even then, like if you get Cursed Merfolk, and that's the 1/1 drop that you have on there, and if you're going first, you're guaranteed to at least get the 2 lore. And so when it comes to aggro, you're just trying to hope for guarantees and all that kind of stuff. That's what you're kind of looking for. But yeah. And then, to top off for all the 1-drops, I have another lady, which is Lady Elegant Spaniel. 1-drop, uninkable, 1/2 stat line. And while you have a character named Tramp in play, this character gets +1 lore. And it does quest for 1 on its own. Originally, I did have a set of 4 of this character in the deck, and I actually only had 2 Cursed Merfolks on there too. But I decided I really want to do whatever I can to kind of ensure that I can have as many opportunities to do 2 lore, at least 2 lore each turn. And so I decided to keep all 8 of the Daisies and the Cursed Merfolks in the deck, and I actually downplayed the lady. What I had noticed, at least in terms of like how this deck is set up, is because I have Tramps in the deck, but I don't like being dependent on a Tramp to show up, so I can play this, get this ability out. It's a good ability to have when you have it, but this is more of like a situational kind of thing, and I don't want to rely on situational efforts in order to kind of get the thing. I don't like that the deck currently is sitting at a lot of uninkables, but I think the whole point of the deck is like you're trying to make do with the ink that you have, so you can go out and be aggressive as best as you can. So yeah, so that's enough for the 1-drops. Now I got for the 2-drops, I've got Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain. If you're an aggro player, you know this card really well. It's a 2-drop inkable, 2/2 stat line, and while you have 2 or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 strength, 2 lore ability, and it does quest for 1 on its own. Now, again, like this is a prime target for things like Storm or Strength and Brawl. It falls to Brawl, and everybody's going to say that sort of thing. But the reason why it's kind of remained in the deck is you don't ever want to have Piglet pop off in the way that it does. Even if it's just for like 1 turn, you're still going to get 3 lore and that sort of thing. And if you make it in such a way that it's damn near impossible to kind of prevent the lore gain on the opponent's end. Let's say like you have Piglet, but then you also have like a Daisy, a Cursed Merfolk, and like I don't know, like let's say you have 3 Daisies on the field, right? First of all, usually whenever you have 3 Daisies on the field, you pretty much have the game well in hand. I'm not trying to be overconfident. It just seems like any single time like you put 3 Daisies on the field by like turn 3, you're just like. I might as well just concede. Like, how do I overcome this? But with Piglet, you can make that the target and have the other characters progress because you don't want Piglet to pop off. And so like a lot of people will tend to target Piglet, leaving your other characters like kind of protected in those situations, especially when it comes to like even if you have like Nala on board or Little John on board. What? Okay, he's got those ones still have an 0-4 stat line, and unless you're playing Ruby Sapphire, which has Brawl, no one's going to target those ones because one, they only quest for one, and like most people are going to look at it and you're like, just quest for one. This one, you've got two other characters on the field, and Piglet's going to pop off for three. Yeah, of course I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, but like what it does mean is that it's one character that they're going to get rid of, and these other two can still quest for two. Not a problem with that sort of thing. So that is kind of like a beneficial kind of thing because Piglet can be the target if it needs to be. But if it does stay on the board, guess what? You're questing for three, and it's such a great card that does attract a lot of attention. But in most cases, it's for the better when it comes to trying to finish up your aggro strategy of trying to win the game, you know. And the whole point of the whole point of the game is playing to win the game. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that said, I do have the other 2-drop that I've got is 2-drop Lilo. Lilo Escape Artist. It's got a 2 quest. Oh my gosh, it's a 2-drop inkable. 1/2 stat line, quest for 2. It's got no place I'd rather be. If at the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may play her and she enters play exerted. I did originally have this card at 4, excuse me, but with aggro, the whole point of the deck is to get rid of cards as soon as you possibly can, and using like whatever limited resources you have at your disposal to make sure that you're getting cards out. In a lot of cases, late game, I really did not want to get Lilo out. And I also didn't want to be put in a situation where I would ink Lilo just so I can get other cards out. So I actually dropped the amount on there. I think Lilo on its own is a pretty solid card as long as it can stay on the board. But you don't want to rely on this play every single time because at the beginning of the turn, before you even draw a card, you have to make the decision whether or not you want to put Lilo in play and use resources at your disposal in order to do so. And that can be really, that can be a pretty tough decision, and I never wanted to subject myself to that. I do think Lilo is a good card, but that's the reason why I do have 3 of them. But the reason why I don't have 4 of them is because I don't want to depend on Lilo so much. And there's not really, in all fairness, there's not really a reason for me to depend on Lilo too much the way that this deck is built. So yeah. And then, next 2-drop I got is Tramp Enterprising Dog. This is the reason why Lily is still in the deck. There's a couple of them, but there's a reason why it's in there. Is because it's a 2-drop inkable, 1/3 stat line, quest for 1. It's got the moves Hey Pidge. If you have a character named Lady in play, you may pay 1 less ink to play this character. So it falls into the ability of turn 1 uninkable Lady, right? You put that out there, and then if you have a tramp in your hand, this would be the only situation in which you would ever want to have that lady and that tramp at the same time. Is that you have a guaranteed way to get a 1/3 guy, which again is a pretty sticky character. It can be tough to kind of get rid of unless you have a brawl, because of the 3 willpower that it does inherently have. Then in addition, when you play this character, a chosen character of yours gets +1 strength this turn for each other character to play. Now, if you play this late game and for some reason you need to get rid of a character, this could be a like on the other side, this could be a situation where like you can have this thing like somewhat late game and you could get rid of that character. So for some reason, like, man, if a deck happens to be an aggro deck and you're trying to outrun it and you're trying to stop it, but they have like a really strong character in play, you can use Tramp as a means with a whole swarm of characters to like use that and strengthen up the character so you can go ahead and fight the other character. Rare situation, but it's definitely a good utility card to have. But the point is, it's still a 2-drop that you can put down situationally and still manage to get 2 other characters on turn 2 on the board. This and then like another 1-drop, as long as you have uninkable Lady or even like the inkable Lady, it still also works too. But yeah, that is a combo that you can have access to, and the whole idea is this is not going to be my curve. I'm not going to do this all the time, but I want to have something just in case like I can't get my curve out. I can always use this as a backup, and that can always be helpful. And then of course I got the MVP of Emerald, Go Tamago, Darting Dynamo. 2-drop, inkable, 2/2 stat line. It's got evasive, quest for 1. It's got stop whining, woman up. And when you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to gain lore equal to the damage on chosen opposing characters. This is the one situation where like you're really close to the end. You pop Go Tamago. You got a couple little extra ink on the field. Just put that on there. You know, I don't know, sacrifice some strength. Like you know, get into a challenge really quick and just kind of pop it in there. Go Tamago falls out of nowhere. Go Tamago is one of the. It should be one of those cards that everyone should always be on the lookout for near the end, especially when it comes to an aggro deck. It should be kind of like thought up in the same vein as like when you're playing Amethyst, you know your opponent's kind of close to the end. You should always be on the lookout for a goat or a white rose, or in the case of an Amethyst Steel deck, you want to make sure that you want to be on the lookout for a giant cobra. Like a giant cobra could end up finishing the game. This is a card that should always be in people's minds whenever you're playing Emerald, and it never is. Like I've been playing against Emerald for such a long time. I personally can't stand playing against Emerald. Emerald is one of my biggest enemies, and it's hilarious whenever I try to build an Emerald focused deck because I'm just like, I am playing what I hate, you know. So like but with Emerald, it just never fails. Like it always just seems to kind of fall by the wayside in everybody's mind that this is actually a really important card to look out for when it looks like your opponent's about to win. So yeah, Go Tamago is a really solid game winner. I have 2 in there. I don't want to make this my offense, obviously, but it's good to know that it's there. And honestly, it doesn't show up in my hand all that often for me to kind of worry about like having it super early in the deck or like kind of mulliganing for it. I mean, I usually put it as part of the mulligan near the end to hopefully get it. But Go when it does show up, it's like a good card to kind of have like near the end, because that could be the thing that ends up winning the game for you. So yeah, I like having Go in the deck, and it's really solid. So yeah. Next 2-drop that I've got is Invited to the Ball. Now, this is the one action that I have in the card, in the deck, and because of the spice that's added into this deck, because I have a lack of essential cards in this deck. Invited to the Ball is a really important card to have in those situations. And again, it's the only action, so this thing will usually pop off quite easily. But Invited to the Ball is a 2-drop uninkable, and it's an action, and you reveal the top two cards of your deck. You put revealed character cards into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. There are only 4 of these. Everything else is characters. You have a very high chance of like picking up characters and putting them into your hand so that you can continue being as aggressive as you possibly can. Because again, that's the whole point of the deck. But with a deck that doesn't have as much draw power because of the lack of essential cards that I have in this one, this is an important deck card to have to kind of make up for that lack of card draw. It's a solid card, and I think this is a severely underrated card when it comes to an Amber build that is running aggro. Solid option. I really like this one, and I would recommend anybody who does Amber that focuses a lot more on characters to have this card in your deck just in case. I think 4 slots in a 60-card deck is worth the risk in order to kind of make sure that you still have cards in your hand that you can still play. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 3-drops. So I've got 3-drop Lady, 3-drop Inkable, Family Dog, 2/2 stat line, quest for 2, which is so cool. And when you play this character, you may play a character with cost 2 or less for free. I already demonstrated that we have so many characters that we could put down for free on this. Now, this would be a crazy situation is like, what if, I was just thinking about this just now, what if you had 5 ink on the table, you had a whole bunch of characters, right? Let's say you send Nala in to challenge a character that's on the field, right? Like an opposing character on the field, right? Takes, I don't know, 3 damage, and it's got 4 willpower, so like it can take that hit. But let's say you put down Lady, right? Boom, 3. You quest spend 3. Actually, no. Actually, I don't think this will work. I don't know. It'll work. It'll work. Yeah, 3. And then you play a 2-cost character for free, and it happens to be Go-Go, right? What if you put down Go-Go and and then you don't have to pay the cost for it, and then you can use that last 2 to gain the lore equal to how much Nala took for that challenge. That's 3 lore. You just turn Nala into a 3 lore quester for 1 turn. That can win games, and if you're close to that sort of thing, that's like the kind of thing that you want to have, you know. So yeah, Lady is such a sick character, but like honestly, like most people are going to use this to put out their daisies for free, put out their merfolk for free, put out other lady for free. Uh, the tramp, you know, like that sort of thing. Like people are going to be using it for that reason, and it's still important that you can get those out. So Lady is such a great card to have. I'm so glad that this is in there. I think in my experience, like training and working on these decks, I do kind of think that Lady has a better home in Steel, in an Amber Steel aggro deck. But it's not to say that like it's bad in Amber Emerald. I think it's actually really good in Amber Emerald because there's so many targets that you can put down on there too. Um, the only reason why this is in here is because the Amber Steel song deck that I do have is a song focus deck, and so like Lady is a good card, but it doesn't really focus on the narrative that's Amber Steel Songs is trying to create. So here it is in Amber Emerald, and hopefully going to help Amber Emerald make it deep in the Nerdstrom House Championship. All right, now let's go ahead and move on, and let's take a look at some spice. Okay, finally I got some spice, and what better to bring some spice than the cook herself, Julieta Madrigal, the excellent cook. It's a 3-drop inkable, 1/4 stat line, quest for 1. It's got signature recipe. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from a chosen character, and if you removed damage this way, you may draw a card. This is what a lot of people like to call "we have Rapunzel at home," and there is a good reason for that. Rapunzel, and you'll see it in this deck, does allow for as many cards as damage counters as you were able to get rid of, up to 3. This one, you take off 2 damage characters and you only can draw 1 card. So it does have a weaker move, but there's a couple of things that are to its benefit. One, it's cheaper. The other thing is that it is, and it does make it so that like your characters like Nala or Little John can be a little bit more useful in those situations because they can take a little bit of damage and they can kind of absorb that sort of thing. But yeah, Julieta is cheaper for 1, and it's still a pretty important card to kind of have in those situations. But it's more especially important here because I don't have a lot of Rapunzels in this deck. You're gonna see how many I have in a second. But it's just such a nice card to have just in case. And in this deck, it doesn't pop off all that much. I don't really see it all that much in there. But like sometimes whenever Julieta shows up, it's like at the most clutch moments for this deck to be successful. So yeah. And then we also have little Clarabelle. Clarabelle, Contented Wallflower, 3-drop, inkable, 2/3 stat line, quest for 1. And when you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you, then you may draw a card. Most people know about the 7-drop Clarabelle that allows you to draw as many cards as the guy has if you have under. But this deck is not fast enough to do that sort of thing. So in steps Clarabelle, that can at least get you a card, and sometimes 1 card in this sort of format can help win the games. So it can be really essential in those situations. And then you've got 3-drop Kit Cloud Kicker, tough guy, 3 inkable, cost 3, 2/2 stat line, quest for 1. It's got Sky Surfing. When you play this character, you may return chosen opposing character with 2 strength or less to their player's hand. This is one of those things just to kind of interrupt the momentum of an opponent if it just so happens to be a situation like that. Sometimes it can result in like really key characters being taken out. that can, you know, it can slow down aggro. It can, you know, take up a couple of cards and put it on there too. It's like, yeah, it just means that, yeah, it's just like I'm gonna have to deal with this card again, but at least I don't have to deal with this turn. So, get Cloud Kicker, decent card. I only have 2 of these ones in there. I don't want it to be the part of the like the whole point of the deck. I don't want it to be the identity of the deck, but it's good to know it's there just in case I need to use it. All right, now it's time for the 4 drops. And I know this video is running long. I'm sorry, but what's key is I only have 1 Rapunzel in this deck. Why is that? Because I only own 5 Rapunzels total, and 4 of the other 4 are in the Steel Song deck. That's the reason why it's like that. But I don't need to depend on. I personally don't feel like I need to depend on Rapunzel too much in this deck because there's so much draw support in here that is just useful enough to kind of make it a competitive deck. But yeah, Rapunzel, you guys know this one. It's been around since the first chapter. Rapunzel gifted with healing, 4-drop inkable, 1/5 stat line, quest for 2. It's got Gleam and Glow. When you play this character, remove the 3 damage from your characters. Draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way. I think it's one of the best cards in Amber. It's been ever since first chapter. It's really hard to get. It's super expensive. That's the reason why I haven't invested time on there too. And with Fabled coming out, I'm not 100% sure that Rapunzel is going to be re-released. So thus, I don't know if I'm going to be spending money on Rapunzels anytime soon. But for now, this is a great card to have, and I'm really glad that this is in this deck. For however much I got, and I think it works well in tandem with Julieta. That's the reason why Julieta is 3 and this is 1. It's like Julieta kind of makes up for the lack of for the 3 spots that Rapunzel should be taken up in this deck. And the other thing too is, like, again, Julieta, it's a 3-drop. It's fast. You can put it out really quickly if you need to. Rapunzel is a little bit slower, and the whole point of aggro is you're trying to get things done as fast as you possibly can. And then, next one I've got is Jock. Attentive Uncle, 4-drop inkable, 3/4 stat line, quest for 1. And when you play this character, if you have 3 or more characters in play, yeah, gain 2 lower. All of a sudden, this one for a turn is a 2-drop. Is a quest for 2. So solid character. Again, it's a spot situation just in case you happen to have the things. Just put it down there, get your free lore. Who doesn't want free lore? You know. Now let's move on to the 5-drops. There's only one, and it is this lady right over here. Shift 3, Lady Miss Park Avenue, 5-drop uninkable, 4/4 stat line, quest for 2. And when you play this character, you may return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand. And there's a lot of cheap characters. They're probably going to get destroyed. If for some reason Sisu shows up and just runs amok and like gets rid of things, Lady can at least show up to kind of protect you from that sort of situation. Because they will come out and you can send things from your discard back to your hand. And you can still do it even if you had, like, let's say a 1-drop Lady in your hand and then this one, but you had like 4 ink on the field. You could be like 1, boom, boom, 2, 2. It's like, cool, you're kind of screwed for this one turn, but at least you still have character cards that you can put back on the field. And again, they're sticky. 1/4 stat line, 0/4 stat line, 0/3 stat line. Like, they are hard to get, and all of a sudden, like, your opponent has to deal with them again. You know, so sometimes those cards that you put in the discard, it's worth having. You know, because like you can kind of do something with it later on. All right, and then let's go to the high mark ones. You've got Tramp, Street Smart Dog, 7-drop inkable. 2/6 stat line, quest for 2, and for each character you have in play, you pay 1 less to play this character. Again, swarm the board with 1-drops, and all of a sudden this Tramp gets really, really cheap. You could put this character out. Yeah, it dies to brawl. I understand that, but at the same time, it's got a 6-drop stat line. So if they have no choice but to challenge you, it takes a little while. It takes a lot of effort to get this character off the board. The other thing is that it's got house pickings. When you play this character, you may draw a card for each other character you have in play, then choose and discard that many cards. As long as you have at least 1 card in your hand, it's worth it, because then you can spend time trying to find the card that you actually want and then mill things on there too. And remember, in a deck like this is a ChernaDAWGS deck. Your whole point is to put as many cards in the discard for this card reason. which is the 10-drop Chernabog 9/9 stat line. It's 10-drop uninkable. It quests for 3. For each one character card in your discard, you pay 1 less to play this character. It's a big boy. It's a big threat. And I understand that if you're playing against a deck like, I don't know, what's a good deck for as an example? If you're playing Ruby, if you're playing Emerald, Emerald has bounce, and I understand that. If you and who's his face? You've got Ruby on there, but for most situations, when somebody puts down Chernabog, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just a big character. What am I going to do about this sort of thing? And on top of that, it does quest for 3. But yeah, when you play this character, shuffle all character cards from your discard into your deck. Now all of a sudden, you have the ability to get those cards again. You don't really want to be in a situation like that sort of thing, because like hopefully by the time you've already gotten rid of your hand, you got Chernabog out there, and now they just have to deal with Chernabog for a little bit. But the whole point is like it's now replenished, and those cards that you can draw now are back in play, potentially. Hopefully you win the game by that time. But until then, Chernabog is a really solid card. Just have, in my opinion, as a scare tactic, it's a pretty scary card, and it takes a lot to deal with Chernabog. But yeah, this is a solid card, and it's a fun end game to kind of have near the end to kind of win it. But yeah, that is my ChernaDAWGS Amber Emerald deck. This sits currently at the 6th seed in the Nerdstrom House Championship, but I think with the way that the brackets are kind of lined up, this has a chance to kind of make it pretty deep in the Nerdstrom House Championship. So I'm really excited to kind of see what comes of this deck. So I apologize. It was just a long deck profile. I think I just kind of got talking, and I just talked strategy and just kind of get you an idea of like what's going on. A lot of the other decks that I have inside of here are going to be a little bit more familiar, so you probably already know what kind of strategies are on there too. But yeah, this is a really great card, a really great deck. I'm really excited to play this, and I think this is a deck that down the line in Fabled, with Fable coming out, there's a lot of cards that are brand new. Chernabog, unfortunately, is not one of them. But I may not have to worry too much about rotation with this deck. Kind of losing too many characters, because this is a pretty unique deck to like set 5 and up. So hopefully this sticks around, and we can still continue with ChernaDAWGS. I think this is a pretty solid deck overall. But I've got plenty more deck profiles that I need to go through. So stick around, stay on the channel. I'm going to be doing more as the day goes on. Until next time, my name is Nerdstrom, reminding you that just because I play against myself doesn't mean that you have to. Go out, make new friends, and let's get nerdy.